Hey, before we dive in, if you love real, raw stories about betrayal and heartbreak, make sure to hit subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you'd do if you were in my shoes. It all started with a text that felt like a punch in the gut. Honestly, small town life just isn't for me. You wouldn't get it. My heart sank, not because of the words, but because of the cold smirk I could hear through the screen. I had spent years loving her, building a life she said she cherished. And here she was, mocking everything I held dear. I tried to shake it off. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe it was just a passing comment. But something in her tone, in that deliberate choice of words, felt heavier than anything I'd felt before. I found myself watching her every move over the next few weeks. Missed calls became more frequent. She would step out of the room to take a call and return with that practiced smile that no longer reached her eyes. One evening, I saw her phone buzz on the kitchen counter. Against every rational thought, I glanced at it. There was a string of messages I wasn't meant to see. Not threatening, not angry, just different, flirty, familiar, intimate in ways that felt like knives twisting. My mind spun. Was I overreacting? I told myself I was imagining things, that this was paranoia creeping in. But deep down, a cold knot of suspicion was forming. I started noticing subtle changes. She laughed at jokes I didn't understand, referenced meetings I'd never heard about, and suddenly had this newfound confidence, like she was living in a world I wasn't invited to. I questioned myself constantly. Was I imagining the betrayal or was it real? But every tiny inconsistency, every little secretive glance, fed the doubt gnawing at me. The real shock came unexpectedly. I was sorting through company files for my own small-town investments when I noticed something that made my pulse stop. Her company, the one she had built from scratch, the one she flaunted in every conversation as her domain, was under my control. Literally. I had been quietly acquiring shares, investing under my name through intermediaries, planning to surprise her one day with the security of her empire. I wasn't just invested, I was running it. And yet, she had never even noticed. Curiosity, anger, and disbelief collided. I logged into the internal system, and there it was. Confidential emails, financial strategies, contracts. Things she had proudly boasted about. And then I found them. Names, schedules, little trips she hadn't mentioned. Meetings she claimed were for work. It hit me like ice water. She had been lying, hiding, moving through her days as if nothing mattered, while secretly, she had been living another life. The confrontation wasn't cinematic, not like the movies. It was quiet, tense, and brutally intimate. I asked her to sit down. She looked at me, confused, her brow furrowed. "What is this about?" she asked, her voice calm, too calm. I laid it out. Every inconsistency, every suspicious text, every hidden meeting. And then, finally, the truth spilled out slowly, reluctantly. She admitted to an emotional affair, a connection she convinced herself was harmless. That didn't mean anything. But the betrayal stung like fire, because it wasn't just about the affair, it was the lies, the disregard for everything we had built together. I remember sitting there, staring at her, thinking of every small moment that had now turned into a lie. The late-night dinners she claimed were for networking, but were spent texting someone else. The weekend getaways I thought we shared, actually orchestrated to cover her absence. Every memory suddenly felt like glass, fragile and sharp, ready to cut. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I just left, quietly, deliberately. I needed distance to untangle the mix of heartbreak and anger. Days later, I realized something crucial. I had been strong, patient, supportive, and none of that had demanded her honesty. I had loved openly. She had only loved the idea of me. Ending it was bittersweet. No dramatic court battles, no public scenes. Just a conversation, brief but clear, setting boundaries, reclaiming self-respect. I told her calmly, "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. I know who I am, and I won't settle for anything less than honesty." And then I walked out, leaving behind a world she had mocked and a life I knew I could rebuild stronger, wiser, and unbroken. In the weeks that followed, I found solace not in revenge, but in reflection. In quiet mornings, coffee in hand, I think about what trust really means, about how betrayal shapes a person not by breaking them, but by showing them their own strength. I was angry, yes, but I was also free. Free from the lies, the pretense, the mocking of the life I had built with integrity. If you've ever felt that sting of betrayal, you know it doesn't leave immediately. But there's a strange power in reclaiming yourself, in walking away with dignity intact, knowing that no one else's ignorance can define your worth. Life in our small town wasn't small at all. It was honest, steady, and mine. And this time, I would protect it fiercely. So, what would you have done if you discovered your spouse had been living a double life, right under your nose? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how you'd face betrayal and take your power back.